What's up, Lions of Liberty fans? You can now support this show on Patreon and get exclusive access to bonus audio and video content, including Conspiracy Corner, Degenerate Gamblers, bonus segments with guests, and so much more. Head on over to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty.
Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, welcome back to another edition of Felony Friday, a weekly show right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Of course, for new listeners, Felony Friday is the only show that focuses every single week on exposing injustice in this nation's broken criminal justice system. And this is one of three other shows that we have here on Lions of Liberty. We have a show every Monday hosted by Mark Claire. It's our longest running program, our flagship program, where Mark interviews leaders in the libertarian movement and hosts roundtable discussions. Every Wednesday, we have a show hosted by Brian McWilliams. It is called Electric Liberty Land, and it is your weekly shot of culture, comedy, and liberty. And sandwiched between those shows, every Tuesday, we have our newest show. Actually, it's now every Tuesday and Thursday for the next couple of weeks. It's called Candidates of Liberty, where we interview libertarian candidates running for office. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback from that show for a limited time with those two shows, the flagship program, ELL, and two Candidates of Liberty episodes. Along with Felony Friday, we have a 5-day-a-week podcast. So you don't want to miss a single one of these episodes. Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, TuneIn. Just yell at your Alexa, play Lions of Liberty. However you listen to your podcast, be sure to subscribe so they are delivered to your phone every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for this limited time when we have this 5-day-per-week podcast. That's all I got, guys. Actually, wait, hold on. One more note. I want to talk about a partnership we have where you've heard about on our show. You've heard it advertised on our other show, but I want to talk about ammo.com. Now, we have a deal that ammo.com is offering Lions of Liberty listeners. I know that the guys at ammo.com are fans of this show. They are libertarians, and they want to reach out to our audience. They want to give our audience a special deal. They're offering 20% off for purchases of $200 or more at ammo.com. Who doesn't need more ammo? Who doesn't want more ammo? Everybody needs to buy ammunition. So what I want you to do is to go to ammo.com/Lions of Liberty and buy your ammunition through that link. You'll get set up with the code, all that good stuff. Get your discount. Go to ammo.com/Lions of Liberty and place an order today. Now, let's get rolling with today's show. My guest today on Felony Friday is Ken Bright. Ken spent 20 years incarcerated, and after being released, after re-entering society, he's done some pretty cool things, like working, trading on Wall Street, and he's also the founder and president of the Life Progressive Services Group. And what this group does is they help out with reentry, transition back into society. They're also an advocacy group, and they advocate for formerly incarcerated men and women, and they help to educate and help to make a difference in their lives so they can find success re-entering society. Ken, welcome to Felony Friday.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Ken. And one thing I like to do when I bring my guests on is, for the benefit of my listeners, they can get perspective on you and learn more about you, just to give a general overview of really your past, just some key things like where you grew up, where you're from, what city, what your life was like growing up.
Sure. Well, as you said, that I am a formerly incarcerated individual who spent 20 years. But following back, I grew up in Queens, Jamaica, Queens to be exact, until I was about 18, 19. 16 is when I started my criminal life. I dropped out of school, chasing women, chasing money, chasing anything that make you look decent or think you look decent. And it took me in different areas of crime till I was about maybe 24. 24 is when I became incarcerated, but that didn't happen there. I was incarcerated in Queens when I was a youth there in Nassau County. Those who are familiar with that. And when I was in my 20s, I moved to the Bronx. Naturally, I was committing crimes there. I got arrested when I was, like, as I said, 24 years old. And I went in. I got 20 years. It wasn't my first incarceration, but it was the first felony I got. So I did 20 years in there. But while I was inside, the first 3 years, to be honest, I didn't get it. I was still acting out, toxic, if you will. I like to use that term because toxic is what I was to the community, to myself as well. So what I did for the first 3 years, I just played basketball, hung out with guys, really not trying to go anywhere until I met some individuals inside. Because I was always going to the box, fighting or not following the rules inside the institution, just creating havoc inside. And naturally, I spent time in the box for many of small things, but nevertheless, it got me to the box. So while you're in there, I had a chance to rethink my life a little bit. On top of that, I've had individuals who actually are older than I am after about 3 years, who actually would pull me to the side and try to educate me on certain things. I was very much interested at that time, in the law library, because that was the place where everybody tried to get their freedom. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I noticed that while you're in there trying to get your freedom, you're also learning to read. You're being forced to learn to read when you're trying to deal with your case. Because you have to know certain things about the law. You have to know how to search law books, search for the newest cases, the cases that were precedent, if you will. So it was a place not only just to try to learn your case, but you learn a lot about the law in general, and you learn how decisions are made. So it was an education for me at that beginning point. But in society, when I came into population, as I said, you mingle with individuals. And I started mingling with guys who did more time than I had, who'd been in there maybe 10, 15 years long before I even came to jail. But I learned a lot of things from them. And I always wondered why these individuals didn't go home. And they was always sending people home who did 1, 2, 3 years, but didn't learn anything. This is I found very, very critical. I found out most of the guys who do a lot of time are the ones who really actually transitioned themselves.
But why do you think that is?
I think because of the time they had the chance to isolate. They were in isolation. They had a chance to really think things out. Not saying they came in right away and started getting their act together. I think they transitioned just as I might have. The first couple of years, they didn't take it serious, but as time go on, you do enough time, you're in that cell, you have a chance to face your demons. You have a chance to really refocus your life and assess yourself, to use that term. Mm-hmm. So, everybody have their own path, but me speaking for myself, I had a chance to meet individuals who have done a lot of time, who are doing a lot of time, and who are actually transitioned and have a lot to offer, because they offered me a lot. They offered me their hand to teach me. They offered me their books. They offered me their information. They shared their life story. And that actually therapeutically helped me.
So it's an interesting concept, and I'm just kind of curious. Uh-huh. So you say the longer people are are in, they get a lot of time to reflect on their past and their mistakes, on where they want to go with their life, hopefully once they do get out. So you served 20 years. Is there a time during that sentence where you can point back and say, you know what, at year 11, I was ready to go back into society, or year 8 or year 15, whatever it be?
Well, to be honest with you, being a formerly incarcerated, when you're inside, you always think when you can get out that you.
Oh, right. I'm just kind of thinking back with the benefit of hindsight and everything today.
Well, it would have to been when I started going back to school. I got my GED, and they had a course in the college that was offering a special course. It was a trial test. Because they was bringing the college into the college, Mohawk Community College. I was on my way out, but I had maybe 5-6 years to go before I actually go to the board. But they had a course in there, and at that time I was the president of the NAACP and a couple of other programs. I was a vice president. And the thing is this here, when I was going back to school, they offered a course in college with college credits dealing with Wall Street, learning the market. Now, I found that very strange and very interesting because there was really nothing in there on a college level being presented. So, as I said, it was a trial run. And so I was able to get in this course. It was a year course, and I took it. And I found it very interesting. I learned a lot. And it also fitted into the fact is, how come we actually, when I say we, I mean those who are disenfranchised don't know anything about this in society. And it also took me to the level of fact the education wasn't there. The opportunity wasn't there. So when this opportunity came inside, I took advantage of that. I passed that. And that started the ball rolling to the fact is I was ready to go. I was ready to enter society, but I know that time didn't allow that at the moment.
How many years had you served at that point?
I served about 15. Served about 15 then, because it came in at that point. But I say about maybe 8 years is when my growth started to expand. And then when I went to the college, that's where I really got the idea, because now I'm reading more about the market and trends, algorithms, and actually how decisions are actually made.
So were you able to actually follow the market while you were incarcerated?
Every now and then I would get I couldn't get the Wall Street Journal, and I couldn't get certain other papers, European papers, but I would get the Times. You get the Times every now and then. But as you know, it's all speculative. Mm-hmm. But at least you had a guide. At least once you understand how the market go, then you can. But you can't, inside you can't do all you can do is learn it.
The cannabis industry has rapidly expanded. For those liberty lovers who want to take advantage of this growing industry, they've been met with a flood of government taxes and regulation. A lot of cannabis companies would just love to hire a full-time CFO, but that could be super, super expensive. But what if you could have the knowledge and experience of this full-time CFO at a fraction of the cost? If you are in the cannabis business or you plan on entering the fray, then you need to schedule a free consultation with the Grow CFO, Rachel Kennerly. The Grow CFO will help to maximize cost of goods sold deductions by employing accrual and cost accounting, creating tax savings, and improving cash flow. They will keep your books in an audit-ready state. If you or someone you know is either already in the cannabis industry or thinking about jumping in the fray, go to thegrowcfo.com and schedule a free consultation today. That's interesting that there was a course for trading stocks, and I haven't heard of that before. So
yeah, it was very interesting.
Obviously, once you got released, you went and you got your license, right? You took your Series 5.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I got the certificate, and what happened is when I got out, I went to the feds, because I had 2 years to do in the Feds, but only he did one. But what happened is sent me to Cherry Hill, Indiana, in the federal facility there. So, and I also had an introspection, being you brought that up, is what happened is while I was there, I looked at it through the years, but I really took an idea there when I was in Indiana. I said, you know what, I'm not going back to New York because I understand the pitfalls of New York. Fast New York, I knew me. I'm not saying I would go into crime, but New York is not a good place to try to start off something with nothing. You understand?
Yeah.
So, and especially because temptation is there, people know you. It's very conflicting. So what I did when I got parole from there, I went to Atlanta. A doctor allowed me to stay at his house on parole there, federal parole. And while I was there, I had a chance to communicate with some individuals I knew who did work in the market in New York. And they told me that there was going to be a Series 5 test being taken. It was 6 months down the road. So what I did was gather my little coins and came back to New York and took the test. It was a week-long test. And I passed it. Now, the thing is this here. I passed it, but the key is getting in the door.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the thing, getting in the door. And I was fortunate enough to know some individuals who believed in me and was really absolutely surprised that I knew what I knew and was willing to give me a chance, even though I knew they needed a minority also in their firm.
So they were able to look past your felony on your record, right?
Exactly. And the reason why is because the bottom line is if you can do the work, that's the thing. If you can do the work, that's all they want.
Mm-hmm.
If you can help them make money, that's what they want. If you can be in compliance with their firm and don't cause any trouble, they'll work with you. But that's rare. It's very rare. But at the same time, I worked it 3 years as assistant trader. As assistant trader on the floor. I was called a point clerk, where you would gather all the information from the head trader, find out, keep an eye on the board, recognize the changes, and make the changes known in a split second to the firm or whoever's trading at that particular time.
How intense is that job?
It's very high tense. It's the errors can be catastrophic. It can be catastrophic because you can put a wrong trade in or a wrong number, or you can hear something wrong over the phone, and then you're dealing with people's money. It's very high tense, very high tense. It's very. I think once you get into it, you have to actually get used to it because it can be brutal. Because you can make a bad decision or give a bad quote to a person, to a trader. It can cost you. It can not only cost you, but it costs the firm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very immediate.
So you did that for 3 years, and then
2.5 to be exact.
Okay.
2.5 years to be exact. What happened is the market took a dip at that particular time, and it hurt that particular firm. So naturally, I was the last hired. Naturally, I'd be the first fired. But it was a tremendous experience, and they gave me enough severance for my time there. So it gave me a chance to move out of there and start my own program.
Was this back in 2008 when the market took a dip? Was it?
Correct.
Okay. So you moved from, really just having incredible success, being able to come out of prison and get into that field, which is extremely rare, I would think. And what motivated you to start the Life Progressive Services Group?
Well, as I said, when I was inside, I studied a lot of things, and it set me on the path of recognizing the disenfranchised of my community, meaning the African American community or people of color. Mm-hmm. And I really started studying the dynamics of that and the structure of it, and seeing how it's actually designed to, I call it the breeding ground. I call, quiet as kept, I call America the breeding ground of crime. And the reason I call it that, because people are so cut off from so many opportunities that it puts them in a place to look for other ways to survive, which is usually criminality. Mm-hmm. And I looked at that and I said, wow. And I realized my transition and what I needed, what worked for me. I figured that it has to work for some of the individuals who are coming home. Not only those who are coming home, but those who are inside, as well as prevention. Those who haven't actually went down the path of crime, but on the verge. If you can explain the dynamics of what they're up against and why it's so important for education, then I think we can turn this tide. But policies have to change, and that's where advocacy comes in. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, what made me go into it is really helping people. The theme I came up in my organization, I came up when I was incarcerated, because I thought about reentry when I was inside. And I came up with the idea of green thinking because I studied environmental issues when I was also in college. I studied the ecology. And I had a eureka moment when I studied ecology and I looked at the different forms of toxic in society, whether it's carbon footprints, water keepers, you name it, recycling. And then I looked at it and I said, how come nobody applies it to mental health? Because most people who are actually going or becoming incarcerated are toxic in some fashion, mm-hmm. whether it's through their thinking. And I looked at it and I said, they keep the difference between ecology and mindsets. They separate the two. And I understood if people are toxic, everything they basically will do will come out of that form of toxicity. So I said, if we can change the mindset of people, detox their mindset, then we can work on something. It's like having a fence, an old fence that has old paint on it. You don't paint over that fence. You have to sand that fence, refine that fence for a new paint. That's the only way it'll stick better.
I like that. So what types of things would you do? What would you suggest? What does your program suggest for people to be able to actually change their mentality, to remove that toxicity?
Well, the first thing, assessment has to be done. There has to be assessment to find out what the person actually needs, because everybody's different. Most of the situations with individuals we're dealing with, a high number, there's mental health involvement. So there's services that need to be where there's individuals who have different psychosis, if you will, that has to be dealt with. Because you can talk to them, have workshops, that all can help. But at the same time, there might be a professional needed help that they need. So what we do is refer them out, first of all, to those who are capable to provide professional treatment to them. But at the same time, you have to look to accept these individuals into society with open arms. You can't be complicit when you're talking about changing a person's mindset or giving them an opportunity or to prevent them from recidivating if you're not treating them with humanity. If you're still looking at individuals who come home in a punitive level, then you're not really giving them an opportunity. And the thing about it, they'll recognize that right away. So what we do in our program, we provide a workshop. We provide workshops where we deal with everyday issues, everyday crisis, even down to certain things they need. In my program, we provide what is called preventive mechanisms. Under that umbrella of preventive mechanisms, we provide clothing, professional clothing, in case they're looking for a job. Some of them come home and don't have no clothing, so we have those dungarees and khakis and things of that nature to give them something to start off with, so they won't have to have no pressure. We provide them food pantry. We provide them toiletry. These little things can prevent a person from recidivating. Because if people don't have anything, they're going to resort back to what they do best or what they're known to do.
Well,
so
yeah,
what we try to do,
if they're put in a desperate situation and given no tools, it's
exactly. But the most thing that we're dealing with now is advocacy dealing with solitary confinement. This is what we're doing with advocacy inside the facilities. We're trying to prevent closed down isolation, because as we know, anything beyond 15 days is torture according to the UN and the Geneva Convention. And it has been understood nationwide in the state facilities. And there are social workers and psychologists who are also supporting these issues now, where we don't believe in those punitive measures to treat a person or to put them on the right path, if you will.
So I would think with that, your group is nationwide, right? And a lot of that would probably be at the state level, right? That's not going to be dictated at the federal level.
Right. Well, I'm in the state level.
Okay.
I'm in New York. So Westchester to be exact. But the issues is nationwide. Mm-hmm. But we're focused here in New York, in the New York State region, dealing with isolation and HALT.
So, what types of advocacy do you do, or what are you able to do to affect change in that area?
Well, we're pressuring our Senate and legislators for a campaign for alternatives to isolated confinement, and HALT, which is solitary confinement. Free New York campaign. We also partnership with Just Leadership and the Correction Association, which also deals with that. But we also deal with RAP, which is the release aging people from prison, those who are above age seniors, who are no longer a threat to society or to themselves. We think that's cruel for them to continue to be locked up and paying for them to be locked up when they can receive some type of treatment if they come home. They'll be treated a little more humanely by instead of being incarcerated. Plus, they'll be home with their family. And they have many stories to tell. There
is some statistic on aging prisoners when they are released and reintegrated into society. The amount of recidivism is so low, it's almost not measurable. I forget what the numbers are exactly, but it's like almost non-existent.
It is very low. It's very low. I don't have the numbers myself at this point. But yes, it's very low. Because, as I said to you earlier, we had talked previously, a lot of these individuals done did a lot of time. They're not trying to come out and commit no crime. They just want to live the rest of their life in their golden years. You know, I mean, to have a person to continue to have these individuals locked up is only punitive and downright uncivilized. And it's costing taxpayers. Taxpayers don't pay the money, just hold seniors. It's unnecessary. Let them come home to their families. And at the same time, they can be an asset to their family, because a lot of them coming home, there's youth around. So they have a story to tell. So they can have a positive impact on society if just given this opportunity.
Yeah, there's very rare situations that I could think of where it makes sense to keep someone locked in prison for life. It just goes back to what is the goal? What is the role of prison? Is the goal to reform? If it's to reform, then it's sort of proving itself that it's not achieving that goal when you're just keeping people locked in that system for 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
No, they're just using, they're playing with words. A lot of times they call them correction facility. Where's the correction at?
Right.
It's another. So it's a play of words. They're using the words just to get, or should I say, to get society to go along with the agenda. See, they set the paradigm, and people were just following it. But those of us who are formerly incarcerated are in demand to change this. We're changing this narrative because we know it's uncivilized and we know it's not correct. If you're going to claim correction, then give true correction inside. Give treatment. Give proper treatment. Give services. Prepare people to come home to get a job. To have a person locked up 10, 15 years without any type of service, and you're not getting true mental service, most of them, they're in isolation. So now they're in isolation. Many of them are becoming insane from being locked up, tortured. Mm-hmm. And then you want to let them out into society with maybe $40 and just the clothes on their back.
Yeah, it really, talk about that specific thing right there, how the prison system is really abusing these people, torturing incarcerated individuals to the point that they're not mentally stable. When they come out, they're creating a public safety issue for
trauma.
They're
creating trauma. They're creating trauma in society, and it's not correct for citizens, taxpayers, to be traumatized. It's unnecessary. But they play on that traumatization through media and everything else. And at the same time, I want to tell you, they'll let individuals out who might have did 2, 3, 4 years without any type of service. But those who've been inside 10, 15, 20 years and actually did their homework and changed and transitioned their lives, they will never see the street.
So let me ask you something. You mentioned before that it was people in prison, older people who had really experienced and had knowledge and sort of mentored you and pulled you aside, and so it's sort of helped to change your mindset. What do you think can be done either from organizations like yours or from the system itself, if we could change it? What can be done to speed up that process, to get people, getting that mindset change earlier?
It's the matter of getting our senators and our legislators getting the bills that we have out now signed and brought to the fore where they become passed. And at the same time, continue to allow, because now they are starting to allow those who are formerly incarcerated and became successful to enter the facilities now to do certain workshops and discuss issues. So it's changing. As we know, things don't change, overnight, but it's changing. So the most important thing is having us at the table, those who are formerly incarcerated at the table. You can't discuss reentry without having us at the table. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. For the simple fact is, we know what works. We actually lived it.
Absolutely. So before I let you go, I want you to tell my audience, number one, where they can learn more about your group, but also, I don't know how you get funding or how that works. If you take donations, things like that, volunteering, things like that. How can people help you?
Well, first of all, my organization is Life Progressive Services Group. We are located at 47 South Fifth Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York. You can Google me, Ken Bright, or you can Google Life Progressive Service Group or LPS Group. I am on Facebook under Ken Bright. I'm on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram as the LPS Group Inc. I'm on PayPal, the LPS Group Inc. And anyways, Ken Bright, you can find.
And so does your group accept donations? How does funding work?
Yeah. You can, if funding is available, you can send it to the LPS Group on PayPal. We don't have a website yet, but you can send checks, money orders to 47 South Fifth Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York, in care of Life Progressive Services Group.
Okay, very cool. And just one more thing before I let you go here, Ken. Just if there's anyone out there listening who, if they maybe a family member or a friend, a loved one who is getting out of prison soon or is hopefully getting out of prison soon, what advice would you give to the families out there to be able to help that individual reintegrate into society successfully?
Embrace them, have patience with them. Embrace them and have patience with them. Have tried to provide the services that they need. A lot of times they won't ask because a lot of times they want to be independent. If there's any organizations in that community, provide a food pantry to them, provide clothing for them, provide transportation for them. In different states in New York, Metro cards are used in order for them to travel. Metro cards are very important for them to move around. Many times they have to go see their parole officer but don't have no money. So if they don't have no money to get a Metro card, they don't make it to see their parole officer. That's a form of recidivism.
Okay, well, that is good advice, Ken. And I just want to thank you for sharing your wisdom today and also all the work you're doing. I think it's, as you were saying before, incarcerated individuals who have been through the system are the ones who can really fix the system. And I believe that wholeheartedly. So thank you for all you do.
Yes, those who are closer to the problem are closer to the solution. Thank you for having me on.
All righty. Thank you.
All right.
All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed today's show with Ken Bright, another guy. And I've had a couple of these guests on, especially in the past, I'd say, 10, 20 episodes. People who have experienced the criminal justice system and who are working to change things based on their own experience. I think this is the path forward. This is how the future is going to be written and the system is going to be saved. I myself, of course, I do not have experience, thankfully, within the criminal justice system. Of course, I have friends and family who have, unfortunately, experienced injustice at the hands of our broken criminal justice system. That is one of the major reasons why I started this show. That's why I'm interviewing people like Ken Bright and giving him the chance to share his story with y'all. So I appreciate Ken coming on the show, sharing his story. I appreciate everything that he is doing to change the criminal justice system. And I appreciate you guys for listening. I see the numbers for Felony Friday. I see the numbers overall for Lions of Liberty. We are trending up. That is a great thing. We have good things in store for the future. We're going to be doing some more advertising on other libertarian podcasts to try to grow our numbers. Our Pride, our supporter group, our Patreon supporter group, the Lions of Liberty Pride, which you can join by going to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. It's growing every month. It's growing and growing and growing. So good stuff is happening with the Lions of Liberty. Currently, we're doing 5 shows per week, which is unbelievable. It's probably not sustainable, and it's definitely going to stop at the election. This is just temporary with those Candidates of Liberty shows. But I just want to thank you guys for your support. Thank you to all of you who have joined the Lions of Liberty Pride. Thank you to all of you who are going to join the Lions of Liberty Pride, because I just know it. In the today, tomorrow, the next day, we get people joining every single day. So thank you in advance for deciding to give us $5 or $10 or $15 or $25 per month. You're going to enjoy the bonus content that we create. Every week we have recurring shows right now, Degenerate Gamblers being one, where really don't let the title scare you if you're not into sports or gambling. It's really just us, talking shit, talking some liberty, telling some old stories, having a good time. Myself, Brian McWilliams, and Rico. It's a great show. One of my favorite ones to record. Then we also have Conspiracy Corner. That is the show where we dig into crazy conspiracies. It's a great time. One of our favorite shows within the Pride. Plus, we have bonus content. I had some bonus content from my friend Remzo, who I had on at Felony Friday last week. We talked about Kanye West and some other crazy things. So we do all these different things in the Lions of Liberty Pride. Just for that extra $5 per month, you get access to all of that. The more that you give us, the more access you get. And we appreciate every single dollar that you guys give us. Join us. Help us. Go to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. That's all I got. I'm a busy man right now. As most of you know, I manage Dale Kern's campaign in my free time, which is very limited right now. Dale Kearns is running for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania. A lot of stuff going on right now. Exciting day tomorrow. He'll be in Pittsburgh. I'll be traveling around with him. So as I record this on a Thursday night, of course, I'm talking about Friday, which is when you'll be listening to this show. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for your support. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.